is Isabel Quinteros Anus, who is Music Partnerships and Artist Relations at Tick-Tock. As you all know now, artists can go viral on TikTok with just a video upload, but Isabel is the woman who makes sure artists become music stars. She has personally coached Jason Derulo, Iggy Azalea to Virality. She has also worked with Megan Thee Stallion, helping make the hit Savage turn into a major dance anthem that we know now. Isabel, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I love your background, by the way. Happy Women's Month.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I love seeing that there's two women that are going to be moderating the panel. So let's just celebrate us.
Yes. So Isabel, you've been named Future 25 of the music industry by Rolling Stone, a power player for R&B and hip hop by Billboard, and you appeared on Billboard's 2020 Leading Women in Music list. First of all, congratulations. That's amazing. And how did you make it here?
You know, it's funny because I didn't have the traditional path. You know, I didn't start in music at all. I actually started in PR. And my story really begins, you know, once I graduated college. I moved to New York City. I was very set on thinking that New York City was going to be the city where I was going to meet the most amount of people, the quickest. So I went to New York without a job, and then I just applied to all jobs, anything. And, you know, I was really just trying to figure out my way. And eventually I found a job in PR. And it really was eye-opening to me because it allowed me to be out and about, working, networking with everyone, top to bottom, and most importantly, helped me like build relationships early on in many different industries, not just one, because PR really kind of touches everything. And so that was kind of like my launching pad. I stayed in PR for about 10 years. Where I worked at several high-profile agencies like Rogers & Cowan and PMK-BNC, where I oversaw music strategy for global brands like Coca-Cola, Beats by Dre, and Pepsi. And it was really there that I fell in love with the intersection of brands and music. It was just a really exciting space. And that's kind of like where I started paying more attention to the industry. I eventually left to go work for a smaller firm that specialized in music, marketing, and PR for hip hop and R&B artists. And it was there that I was able to work with amazing talent like Erykah Badu, Ciara, Future, Lil Wayne, and the list really kind of goes on. And it was through that experience that I learned how to work closely with talent, understanding the nuances around what needs to be said in the way that you need to say it in order for it to like come through the way that you mean it. And then, you know, I decided to launch my own PR firm, which I did and successfully ran it for 4 years before coming to Tick-Tock. So it's been kind of like a whirlwind.
Oh, amazing. And what is it like working? I mean, I follow you on Instagram and I've seen you with Tyra Banks, Terry Crews, Alicia Keys, J-Lo, list goes on. What is it like working so closely with major artists?
I mean, it's fun. I'm not gonna lie, it's super fun, but it's a lot of hard work. I think like you need to have a clear vision of what that work is gonna be before you really sort of approach a camp. I think thinking through what your resources are and like what the interests are for them to like make it exciting. It's kind of like the foundational work that needs to be done. And you know, it's all about making an impact, not just for us, but also for them. And I think when you keep that in mind in anything that you do, like have your objectives clear cut and then have how you're going to measure success, that's really kind of what's going to define you doing good work.
Absolutely. And how did you go from having your own company and switching to Tick-Tock?
You know, it was crazy. So after running my company for 4 years. I came across this opportunity to work at TikTok. It was shortly after the rebrand, so it was 2019. People kind of knew of the app, but it was still sort of finding its way. And what I saw was really exciting. And I couldn't imagine where we are today, but I was kind of like, oh, I'm going to take a chance and see how it goes. And boy, did it pay off, because here we are.
Wow. Yeah, now I think everyone in the world has seen TikTok, heard about TikTok. And it's funny because there's still a misconception, right? A lot of people associate TikTok with dance videos and funny memes, but what really is TikTok? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of nailed it right in the head. So, the music industry, obviously TikTok is like very top of mind, very topical. Everyone's trying to figure out how to get involved. And, even though it's been 2 years, there's still a lot of misconceptions. People think that it's very dance driven, when in fact it's just a very small part of our ecosystem. And people that are over 35 plus feel like there's no place for them on the app, which is completely wrong. I think like what people don't realize is the breadth of content that exists on platform. Sure, the dance content is like front facing, very out there. It's what really kind of drives a lot of the music trends, but all it takes is like spending a little bit of time on the app, engaging on the For You feed to really train it and have a better customized experience for what you're really interested in.
Absolutely. And how much of the app does music represent on TikTok out of your TikTok ecosystem, as you said?
Yeah, no, it's essentially music is the thread that brings all of the content together, right? So you could be really into beauty tutorials, but like you're going to soundtrack that to something, and music will be present to that. So I think because of how music is so important in anything that we do in the app, TikTok has really cemented itself as the best platform for music discovery, because it allows you to be exposed to 12 to 15 sounds in just a matter of minutes from all over the world. And if something's really good and you're into it, you're going to go ahead and save it and potentially use it for like your next video. Or you just want to explore the different types of videos that are being created to the sound that sounds interesting to you, and then you get exposed to like this breadth of content that you wouldn't have otherwise.
It's very interesting. You mentioned artist discovery. This has been a theme that we've heard a lot in the past 2 days of our conference, and virality especially, right? TikTok has brought artists to unexpected, unprecedented levels of virality. Can you tell us more about your experience in taking artists to the next level using TikTok?
Absolutely. So just to take a step back, like you said, right, virality is something that it seems like a buzzword nowadays. Everyone's going viral. But what does virality mean for TikTok? And I think, if we think about the platform, it's just a big space where people can interact and have a communal experience that helps them discover music in like a community way, and to a massive audience. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of background before I dive into like virality for TikTok specifically, I want to just give you some like stats for 2020 to paint the picture. So in 2020, TikTok had 176 songs surpass 1 billion video views. We also had over 100 songs that trended and reached the Billboard Hot 100. And we had dozens of unsigned artists reach major label deals as a result of the success they found on the platform. Additionally, we also provided a big benefit to our catalog artists, revitalizing unheard gems and past hits, and in some cases, returning them to the charts even decades after they've been released. Prime example of that is Fleetwood Mac Dreams. And so with that, I want to talk a little bit about like what virality means on TikTok and how it works and how we kind of help like amplify what's happening in app. So on TikTok, we see two types of virality. We have the sound virality, which really means people are creating content to a specific sound. And then we have content virality, that it's a piece of content that an artist, creates that goes viral and gets a ton of views. Both are really important like ingredients, but together they're the most impactful. Meaning, and I think I'll just use this as an example. Like I'll use Megan Thee Stallion as an example so you can really kind of see how it works. Megan and like our team worked very, very closely on the release of her last album. She was kind of on the app, but not really. Like she had been posting very sort of like here and there, but there wasn't any clear strategy. She was just getting familiar and trying to understand how it worked. When Savage started kind of upticking in the app, it probably had been about a week or two after her album release. And this is important because I feel like a lot of labels are still very much hyper focused on that first week of release. And for us, release schedules aren't necessarily as important. Sounds need to mature in app in order to get people interested in creating content, and that just takes time. So once the song really started to go and we started seeing like a velocity of creations increase, that's when we reached out to management and I was like, I think we're ready to like run the campaign, but I really need Megan to like jump on board and help amplify what we're about to do. This is around like 3 or 4 weeks after the album had been released. Together, we kind of came up with a content strategy plan that was going to support what we were going to run for the sound itself. Megan decided that she was going to recreate part of the dance that had been going viral on TikTok. And that was her first video that was posted to the track that went completely viral. Right now, I think it has around 27 million views and counting. And also, it propelled the sound to just be completely go off platform at that moment. And after she did that video and we ran the campaign, shortly after that, the remix with Beyonce came out. And then the sound now is at 25 million creates. So if you think about that, that's a staggering number of views. Yeah. So I think that's a really good example of like sound and content working together and just the sort of impact that that can have on like off platform too.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And amazing that you got to work with the song that I think everyone knows. Can you mention how do artists use TikTok? So you mentioned not only the song itself, but that Megan had to use other tools on TikTok. What are these other tools available to artists?
Yeah, so we understand that TikTok is probably not for every artist, and that's okay, but there are many different ways that artists can engage with TikTok without necessarily having to create content on their own. One of the easiest ways to get involved and have it be very low left is if there is a trending sound that the artist, is seeing. We highly recommend that they start engaging with the content, whether it be through sharing the content out across all of their other socials and leaving comments. So somebody that's like really good at this is Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus had Plastic Hearts come out at the end of last year. She's very active in apps, so this doesn't, like, that part is separate. But what she was really good at was commenting on everyone's like TikTok that was using the song and just saying things like, hey girl, I see you, looking good. And then that kind of evolved into people being like, if Miley comments on this video, I'm going to cut my hair. Or if Miley comments on my video, I'm gonna break up. Or like, having Miley essentially do like tell them what to do in those situations with a comment.
Right, it becomes like a challenge.
It became like a trend, and then people just kind of like jumped on the bandwagon, and then it kind of became like this thing where you had brands engaging with Miley in this form, and then it turned into like the Chipotle Miley, like, you know, moment where they added her burrito in the menu because of a comment. So like, I think, you know, for something so simple that doesn't take a lot of effort from the artist, having that just like, you know, flexibility to engage with the content in even in small ways can really help just uplift what's happening.
That's very interesting. I'm sure you have plenty of examples, and I'm sure we would love to hear more. What other artists have you worked with, and who in particular has been a very memorable experience to work with for you?
I mean, everybody knows the king of TikTok, Jason Derulo. And I have worked with Jason from the very beginning. So I can tell you that when we met almost a year ago to the date, because it was right before the world kind of stopped and we all entered into quarantine, I went to go meet with him at his house. At the time, he hadn't been on TikTok. He still had grandfather in some of the followers from like the former app that we were. And he was trying to figure out how he was going to get active. So we sat down and mapped out exactly like what he wanted to do, how he wanted to do it. He legitimately looked at me in the eye and told me, Isabel, I want to be number one. I want to be number one in the app, the number one artist, the most followed artist. How do I do that? And so we went through all the best practices. I told him like consistency is key. You need to be consistent on how you're going to be posting. You need to collaborate with the community and really be part of it. And that's what Jason has been doing and does best. I don't think anyone like that is not part of that creator community. It works as closely with them as Jason does. And then obviously he brought his like content game to the next level with all the effects and then working with like public figures like Will Smith. So it's been such a pleasure to work with him. Like we work very, very closely in all of his music releases. We recently just ran a campaign for his song Lifestyle, which just launched a couple days ago on the Discover section of the US. And he always has all of these ideas that he runs by me on like a weekly basis of things he wants to do, things he wants to explore. We obviously provide him with all the tools. We love to hear his feedback. So if there are artists that are like that invested in us, we invest back in them. And it's a mutual sort of relationship, which essentially I would love to be able to work with that with a lot more artists, which I do, but not at that scale because Jason is just like very hyper focused on TikTok.
That's beautiful. And building relationships, this goes back to your career in PR before starting. So I'm sure all of it has contributed to your success these days in TikTok. I have a question about, you are involved in launching Black History Month and Familia Latina in TikTok. And this is something that I personally admire very much, and I'm sure many people as well, is how engaged TikTok is with current events. Can you touch more on this, on how artists, TikTok, and music are engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because celebrating diversity is like a very big tentpole for TikTok. It's important for us to recognize that all different voices are important and that they're celebrated and heard. So you know, we put a lot of resources to prop up Black History Month, you know, Latinx. We're about to launch our AAPI initiative in April. So you're going to see a lot more of these type of initiatives coming from TikTok. And that kind of bleeds across like all of our strategy of how we work with artists as well. So, you know, hip hop is definitely an important part of our ecosystem, is probably one of the most engaged genres when it comes to content creation. However, we want to make sure that we're giving the space to all types of artists. So from like this year alone, like we'll be focusing a lot on country. We're going to be trying to give Latin music a lot more of a platform, not just like the reggaeton pop music that we see kind of go mainstream, but also like regional Mexican, Brazilian bossa nova. Like, we just want to make sure that all of those voices are heard, because we want to continue to diversify the platform and ensure that that anyone that joins can find their tribe and find something that they can relate to.
That's amazing. That's really amazing that diversity and inclusion are such a strong part of TikTok's mission. Unfortunately, there's a subject that cannot be ignored, right? It's the pandemic. How has COVID-19 impacted the release of music for artists? Has this impacted your workflow at TikTok in any way?
So for me specifically, it's just kind of increased. I think a lot of artists who were not able to tour or have like the ability to, be out on the road were looking for outlets to connect and, stay in touch with their fans. I did see a lot of delays in like album releases, but single releases came fast and furious. So we were very, very busy with that. I think a lot of people were a little bit scared of, especially at the top of the pandemic, where we didn't really know like how long we were going to be in quarantine, what was happening with the world. There was some sort of like taking a step back and figuring out what the best strategy is. However, I can tell you that during that time, we were really, really busy with The Weekend, because at the time, Blinding Lights really became an anthem of joy on the app. Everyone was doing the dance with their families and friends that they were quarantining with. And that led into us creating the Weekend experience, which was one of our first like mixed media live streams that TikTok has ever done. So I think, in that sense, our team has been very, very busy trying to figure out ways that we can continue to help bridge the gap between our artists and our users. And, we're continuing to find cool ways. We just recently did a live stream with Justin Bieber, where he performed Journals for the first time ever. I think 4 million people tuned into that. We have a couple more big live streams coming up that we'll be announcing next couple weeks. So yeah, the work never stops.
Can't wait for the live streams. Are any of these changes, these shifts, are they likely to be long-term, or do you think they're simply reactions to the lockdown and the times we're living right now?
I don't, it's a really good question. And I don't have like a clear answer to that. However, I can tell you that we found that live streaming is definitely a really great outlet. And I can't imagine that it's going to fully go away, because it provides flexibility on content that may not otherwise be available. So for example, not everyone's going to feel comfortable going to a concert, in 2022. So what are we going to provide the people that just kind of want to stay home and still be part of the music scene? This is where I think the live streaming portion of it will play a really big role in that too.
Amazing. Looking into the future, insights, the future of music, how are short form videos changing the landscape for musical artists?
What do you mean by that? Like changing how? Like changing their strategies?
Yes, their strategy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think like what we've seen is a lot of artists that have taken to the platform just have a lot of fun in creating content and aren't necessarily doing it with any other strategy than having fun at the time. So think about John Mayer just recently joined the platform, and he is literally just living his best life. He's like having so much fun with it. He's doing tutorials. He is being funny. He is being a little strange and awkward, but everything seems to work. I think for him, like he was just trying to figure out like the new platform and how does it work. I think eventually once he goes into cycle, obviously it will be a vehicle for him to help promote. But for right now, it's more so just getting to know the user base and building community around him. And I think he has the best approach for that. Any artist that tries to just kind of come in and jump on the platform to promote usually doesn't see big engagement from our users. They don't necessarily like that. They would much rather get to know that person and support them once they know, like, okay, we have the similar interests and I think I like this person. So yeah, I'm going to support the music. But you know, it's interesting. I think like we're seeing a lot of like the younger sort of generation of artists that are just jumping on TikTok even before they have like major record deals and utilizing that to get their voice out and get discovered. So I think there's like very different sort of like ways that artists are engaging with this.
That's amazing. And like John Mayer, I think it's a creative outlet, right? Where we get to see a different side of artists. Isabel, I think we have 3 questions from the audience. So I'd like to invite my colleague Juan here to ask them for you. Thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you.
So Isabel, very interesting what you're saying. So we have different questions. We have one from Andres Felipe, and he wants to know, how can small labels work with TikTok?
Work how, like engage with us? It's very, we have like a label relations department that is dedicated to dealing with indie labels, has a dedicated team and people that essentially will get on phone calls and give like a full list of priorities. And we can figure out campaigns that we can run against like certain sounds or artists that are either blowing up in the app or a priority. So it all starts with a conversation and outreach, and then understanding like where they're located. Is it a local team? You know, if the team is like not in the US, we would connect them with the proper teams in Europe or, you know, anywhere else in the world, because we do have offices in all major countries.
Of course. And do you currently have partnerships with some small labels, for example?
Yes, we do. We actually work with a lot of different indie labels. And the way that works is we would essentially need them to have some sort of official feed in order to get all of the music delivered to our platform. And then again, it's just about understanding what the priorities are, like on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, depending on the release schedule for each label. Once that happens, we then go back and see like what resources are available, and then we create campaigns to run against those sounds.
Of course. Thank you very much. I think you've answered this answer very, very deeply, very, very clear. We have a question from Elisa Gonzalez, and she wants to know how, so in TikTok, we see that all the time things go viral, and virality is a great measure for success. So how does virality translates into capitalization of content?
Yeah, so I think like, you know, it's interesting because on TikTok, you aren't necessarily capitalizing on like, you know, you're not cashing out in that sense that there's no money transactions happening. However, when a song goes viral and goes viral off platform, there's a direct correlation between the sound going viral on TikTok and then the sound going viral on the DSPs. And that's where you kind of are able to start capitalizing on that moment. If the artist is essentially on platform and helping to build like a community around them, that's where brand deals come in. So what we do really good at TikTok is not only helping viral, like sounds go viral and ensuring that they have a moment. We also ensure that our artists are onboarded properly in order for them to get access to our creator marketplace that allows them to connect with brands direct and work that way.
Of course. And we have another question. So what TikTok is an international social media app. And what do you think is the best way, or if you could tell us more specifically, what is actually the best way to make your content reach new audiences from different countries and to globalize your brand or your pattern or yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And the best way to really kind of reach a wider audience is by engaging with sounds and content that come from different places. So if there's a sound that you see that's going viral that is not necessarily from where you're from, creating a video to that, and then like, you know, tagging original creators that have done it in the past to have them reshare is a really great way to do that. Collaborating with other creators in different regions also is very, it's also a really great way to get exposed to different territories. So I think that's really one of the best ways to get out there.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you very much. I will pass on the mic to my colleague, Isabel. We have no further questions.
Thank you so much, Isabel. It was really a pleasure having you and a pleasure having you close our conference. We are all very excited, and thank you for sharing your insights on TikTok, virality, and the future for artists.
Of course, thank you for having me. And if anyone else, any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'll see you guys.
Thank you so much, Isabel. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.